Qu'ran have been published recently by an organization in Turkey. We look in particular at the Tubingen manuscript. With me is Dr. Shabir Ally from the Islamic Information Center. But Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Qu'ran Speak.
A pleasure to be on.
Now let's talk about this manuscript. What do you think is so significant about this manuscript?
Yeah, first of all, something about the history of the manuscript. It's a manuscript of the Quran that apparently was in Syria before some German diplomats took it with them to Germany, and now it resides in the University of Tubingen library. There it has been studied, and now it is shown that this manuscript is very old. It has been carbon dated by university authorities themselves and found with a 95.4% accuracy to come from the period of 649 to 675 of our Common Era CE. And what that means, Sophia, is that it was written very close to the time of our Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace.
So is this the earliest manuscript that we have?
It is not the earliest. The Sana'a manuscript is the earliest. The Birmingham manuscript is also very old, older than this one, given its carbon dating. But we can discuss each of those in turn. But for the moment, this one should be appreciated for its age and also for its conformity with what Muslims are reciting of the Quran to this day. So as for the age, I started by saying that this was close to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is said to have passed away in the year 632 of the Common Era. So 649 is just within a couple of decades of his demise, and 675 is a few more decades. But within that period, many of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace, were still alive. And so we have here a document which not only conforms with what Muslims are reading today, but is also from the lifetime of the people who walked with and heard the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, preach directly. So they knew what the Quran was. And we have a stunning confirmation here of the accuracy and authentic preservation of the Quranic text.
Now, Dr. Shabir, there's been some debate within academia about when the Quran was written, right? When it was preserved the way that we know it now. And some academics have said, you know, it's happened quite a long time after the Prophet Muhammad's death. But this seems like it's telling us a different story, right? This manuscript is telling us a different story.
Yes. As Francois de Roche wrote in his book, The Qurans of the Umayyads, the discovery of the manuscript, which is in Paris, which dates from about the same time as this one from Tubingen, and I'll hold it up so our viewers can see this mushaf and how it looks like. So this is the published form in a nice leather binding, and it's only 1/4 of the Quran. So the editor who worked on this, Dr. Alti-Kulach, surmises that perhaps this was 1/4 of the Quran. You know how we have the Quran published in 30 parts so that we can read one part per day and complete the Quran in 1 month. So this may have been like a 4-part collection. And this is one of the parts that survived, the 1/4 of the Quran. Nonetheless, the codex from Paris and this one are from about the same time. And Francois de Roche says in his book that the discovery of these old manuscripts throws out now that hyper-skepticism which was promoted by John Wansbrough and some other European and Orientalist scholars who had thought that the Quran must have been written a couple of hundred years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now we have confirmation that the Quran existed within the lifetime of the companions of the Prophet. So this is a major game changer.
Dr. Shabir, can you tell me a little bit about the script that is in the Quran? What kind of script is being used?
Yeah, so naturally it's written in Arabic, and the script that is used here is a very older form of the Arabic script. I'll just hold it up a little bit closer so that viewers may get a visual impression.
Okay.
So.
Is it called the Kufic script? Is that the name?
This older form is called this one is called the Hijazi script, and the Kufic script is thought to come from a century later. Okay. So this earlier form of the script requires some basic training to read it. It's almost like if you were driving automatic for a long time and you never drove manual, then now you need a little bit of training to drive manual. But basically the way of driving and so on is all basically the same. So with a little bit of retraining, one can read this text as well, especially where it is clear. Sometimes the text gets faded with the passage of time, but it requires a careful scholar to go through it in great detail. And what Alticulat from the research firm IRCICA has done is that he has actually gone through it and he has transcribed into modern fonts what he finds written there in the classical writing. And we can see that, first of all, we can compare his transcription with the original page, which is given, and we can see that his transcription is accurate. And secondly, in reading the transcription, which is easier to read quicker, one can see that this corresponds to what we are reciting as the Quran to this day.
Mm-hmm. So, I assume at that time it was written without any dots, right?
Yes, it was written without dots. Now, this manuscript does have some dots, but the dots are thought to have been included later, and also with a different color ink. But just looking at the basic skeleton text of the Quran, which trained readers are trained to recite even without the dots. So this becomes like an aide memoire, a memory aid, as the scholars refer to them. This here is at least a confirmation that the basic skeleton text of the Quran as we have it now is from that ancient time.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Shabir, can you tell me a little bit about the testing that was done on this manuscript to make sure that it was actually written in the time that it said it was written in?
Yeah. So, in fact, the Tubingen University submitted the pieces of this manuscript to be tested using carbon-14 methods in a reputable laboratory, and the testing came back to show that this was from the period of 649 to 675 with a 95.4% accuracy. Now, the reason they speak in terms of these statistics is that the test itself is statistical. They run the test a number of times and the results come back, and then they say 95.4% of the results fall within this time period. So that's a very dependable test by itself. I mean, that's a very dependable result by itself. But carbon-14 tests with such ancient parchments themselves have been called into question from two perspectives. One is that the carbon-14 tells you when the animal whose skin was used to produce the document actually died. It doesn't tell you when the document was actually produced. But we can say that, these things were not kept in stock. Animals were slaughtered and immediately their hides were prepared for the transcription. It's not like you had a whole stock of animal hides waiting for somebody to come and buy them to write a document. The second aspect of this is that sometimes it has been found that the carbon-14 testing did not prove reliable in giving us results for some ancient manuscripts. But with those cautions aside, with those cautions not to be treated lightly, but at least on the surface, we have no reason to dispute the present carbon-14 result that was obtained by Tubingen University. This is like a university that has nothing to do with Muslims per se. It is a recognized academic institution, and this is the date that they give for this document, given from an independent laboratory. So Muslims have every reason to celebrate this result as one that confirms the ancient nature of this manuscript, and we can see visually that this is in conformity with what we're reciting today, and the result, therefore, is the conclusion that the Quran that Muslims are reciting today go all the way back, at least in its skeleton text, the consonantal form, to the time of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and therefore it's a very reliable document.
I'm really excited that you could share that with us, Dr. Shabir. Thank you.
You're welcome.